All right, welcome to Wednesday here. Um, hope you're enjoying Wednesday. Especially for new students, a couple things going on. Of course, there's right now. I think the experience fair is going down to the student union, so there's lots of tables of things you can get involved in. I was just down there with the study abroad table. Um, I like to teach study abroad programs, and not this spring, but the following spring, I'll be co-leading the semester in Ireland again. I've done that about 3 times. So if you ever want to do a study abroad, some of you are already studying abroad, but if you want to do a study abroad from here, there are a number of options, and I think it's very rewarding there. And then they're still looking for students for this spring's Ireland program. So consider that. If you want information, just let me know or send me an email, and I can get you contact, or just go down to Experience Fair. And the club crawl, I think, is tonight. I've been helping the tech club set up our VR system. So part of that club crawl, I think, will be trying out a VR system. We have an Oculus Rift in the department that we have now set up for that. And there's other fun clubs, not as fun as the technology club, of course, but there are other fun clubs out there. So get involved. We have new leadership in the technology club, so watch for some fun stuff there for that. So get involved. We're gonna start. We'll continue on Unit 2 today. So today is Wednesday, which means we've covered some of the learning material. There's still some stuff we didn't get to on class on Monday, so we'll finish up the learning material. And then we'll work through this, the discussion MadLib activity here and work through that. I've kind of fleshed it out, adding, the link was broken before, so I fixed the link and added a sample here. So we'll look at that during the second half of class. But for the first half of class, we're just going to go into learning materials. And we talked about variables last class and how you could create and assign a variable there. So if you remember, we talked about the different types of variables: integers, doubles, strings, the different sizes, and how we could declare a variable. So like we could say int score semicolon, and that would declare a variable, an organization, a box, basically storage for something called the score, and it's set up to hold an integer for that. And then we looked at assigning those, and we talked about integers, how to store a decimal number with the double precision float, Boolean variables, and then strings variables and what they hold. We can assign. But again, when we looked at them, we were just doing assignments here. It would be nice not to have the person's name like hard coded in this program. Maybe we could actually ask the user to enter their name and have them type in their name and read that into a variable. And that's what we're going to do today, is look at input here. So we'll look at basic input here and how that works. So that's what we're doing in part 2 down here, is looking at basic input for this. So let's just look at how we would do an input here. So again, we're going to look at 2 sections here, CS Awesome and Think Java here. So I'm just bringing up the CS Awesome one first, and it has a short program here that does it. We declare a variable called string name, but rather than setting it equal to a name like last class, we set it equal to like Jose, or we could set it equal to Tom. So rather than having it initialized to some value like this, we're gonna read it in from the keyboard here. So we're gonna use what is called a scanner, an input scanner for that. And so we say scan dot next line parentheses, and this is our next line set. Now, in order for this, excuse me, to work, we have to declare a scanner variable, and that's what we have up here. So we talked about types like ints, doubles, strings. There are a wide range of other types for special things. And so one of these types is what is called a scanner type here. So we declare a variable called scan, and its type is scanner. And then to initialize it, this is a special type called an object. We have to say something called new, and then say scanner, which constructs this and give it some information here. So this is always going to kind of be the same sort of framework, and we just need one scanner that basically connects us to the keyboard and say, okay, create a connection to the keyboard so I can then read information in from the keyboard. So we need one scanner connected to the keyboard, and that's what system.in is. That's actually the keyboard, the input for the computer system, which in our case is your keyboard. If you may be running this on your phone, it might not be the physical keyboard. It might be a touch keyboard on the screen or something like that here. But here it's the keyboard. So again, we have to declare a scanner. And then whatever we name that scanner, we use that here. Now, scanner is a special type. So another thing we have to do is tell the computer where the special type is. And so we often at our beginning of our programs, we have a set of import statements, import certain what we call libraries that define special features. And again, we haven't had to do that really yet, but this is our first time. So we're going to have to do an import space java.util.scanner to get that. And we do that before the main class, at the very top of our program. We do that. And again, we just have to do it once, and then that'll bring in the scanner library. And again, as we go on, it'll be, I mean, it's really common to have like 4 or 5 imports in your program to import different libraries that you might need for your program, for specialized things that you might be working with here. So we'll do this import. We'll call our scanner and we'll do this. So let's run this here. And again, I'm just going to type my name down here. That it's going to use that for input, and we'll do this in NetBeans in just a sec. So we're going to run this. It says running, compiling, and it's we'll say please type your name below, and it's gonna put in Tom, since that's what it says, hello, Tom. I don't think, one of the problems is that it's hard to simulate this sort of what we call console input in the browser here. So I'm gonna actually do this in NetBeans here. So I'm gonna go over to NetBeans, and I've got it bookmarked here now. So just run NetBeans. Again, it's opening up my packages. I have a whole bunch of packages now. You're probably starting to get more and more. So I'm going to try to get them a little more organized with my naming conventions here. So I think I'm going to put the unit here with it and stuff. So I'm going to make a new package, a new project, and leave it as ant. And I'm going to call it unit to input samples or something like that. Let me close off some of these. And I'm going to take this and move it over here. And again, I'm going to leave my package here and my public class here. I'm just going to replace this stuff. So I'm just going to grab the main and copy that and paste it over here into this main. I'm going to get rid of that little comment above it too. There. So Now, there's one issue here. It says there's an error. It's red underlined, and if I hover over it, it can't find symbol here. Here it'll say can't type it. Now, one thing it does say, if you see, it says Alt Enter to show hints. So if I hit Alt Enter, oops, let's see if I can get that to work. If I click here, sometimes Alt Enter works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes if you click here, it'll list common hints. And the first one is to add the import. Because again, that's what I forgot. I forgot to put the import here. So I could just copy this over and put it there. But often it's just easier just to click here and say, add the import. Oh yeah, I forgot the import there. Now, it isn't always right. Sometimes it suggests things that aren't good. So you should look at that, read it, and say, oh yes, that's what I'm missing. Because again, it has other suggestions here, and these are stuff I don't want to do. So it isn't always perfect there. But like something like this, where I just forgot this import, it's the top answer is most likely, and that is actually the right one. So it added the import up here because again, I just forgot to move that over. Okay, I'm going to delete this comment so we can keep things a little bit on one line here, so that I can run this down below. So again, I'm going to run this here. And it says type the name of the person in the input box below, and I'm actually going to type it right here. I'm going to type in Tom here, and it says hello, Tom. So again, here I can actually change this prompt. I'll just say enter your name. For this. Okay, so I'm going to print out system.out.println enter name. I'm going to create my scanner, use the scanner to read in a string with something called next line, and I'm going to print out that since I stored that name in, or the person's input in this name variable, I can print that out. So again, enter your name. Oh, and my name, it says that. That's just basic input stuff here. So back to this CIS Awesome. That's all it does is input, and it goes on and talks about operators. And we've talked a little bit about operators. But again, you might want to review some of this. This is the plus, minus, multiplication, and divide here. And again, it also talks about what this equals, and not equals are. So we can actually run this and just kind of see. Now, 2 plus 3 is 5. That makes sense. 2 minus 3 is -1. That makes sense. 2 times 3 is 6. That makes sense. 2 divided by 3, that's like 0.666, 2/3 is 0.6, but it says 0 here because it is doing integer division here. So it is just getting the full integer that this would go into for this. So we'll return to that in just a sec. And then this printout is 2 equivalent to 3. This double equal sign, we'll see more later on. And that just says, are they equivalent or equals here? And it's going to say, and it returns something that's true or false. That'll say false. And this is how we say not equals. Exclamation point equals is 2 not equal to 3, and that'll be true. So some of these expressions will return what we call a Boolean response, something that's true or false. And so if we do a Boolean operator, we get a result that's either true or false. These are arithmetic integer operations, and they're returning this. So now this would be different or slightly different if we made these decimal numbers here. But they'd be largely the same. So I'm just going to tell the computer that these are decimals by rather than saying 3, put 3.0, and it'll see that decimal and say that's a decimal number here. Now, if I run this, again, it's saying 5.0 instead of 5. So it's giving me a decimal number 1.0 and 6. Now it is actually getting the right one for this division, because it's saying, oh, this is a decimal number, a double, divided by another double. And the result can be a double, not an integer. So it's actually doing that. Where before, it just gave me whatever was on the left side of the decimal point for the results. So you have to watch division a little bit when you do things here. There's also this remainder operation that we'll talk a little bit about here. You might think about remainder in computer, we call it a mod or modulus operator. The idea is I don't know how you learn to do long division, but the idea is like if we're taking 3 divided by 2, it goes in there 0 times, the 0 goes up here and here, and then the remainder is 2. So 3 goes into 2 0 times the remainder of 2. But like 2 goes into 5, 2 will go into 5 4 times. I mean, it will go in twice. 2 times 2 is 4, and the remainder is 1. So we can say 2. So when we do integer division, 2 divided by 5 is just 2. And 2 mod, this percent, is we used to do that. The remainder is going to be 1 here. We will not use this very often, but every once in a while it comes in handy. And so every once in a while, and when we do, we'll talk about it again. So just so you know, there's this mod operator, and every once in a while we'll want to do that. It's particularly helpful when you're like working with things that kind of wrap around on things. So like clocks, like you see it a lot when you do time. So it is now 10 o'clock, 10:48. And if I say, what time is it in 3 hours? You are saying, well, a lot of you are saying it is in 3 hours, it'll be 13:48. But if you're not used to doing 24-hour time, right? You would say in 3 hours, it is 1:48, because we wrap around, we count to 12 and then we go back to 1 again. And that, when we're trying to do that on the computer, this mod is very helpful. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at another input example here. So again, this talks about the scanner class using this input, and we already have that in our program here. So it talks a little bit about what the import scanner does, and then we declare a scanner here. Now this is slightly different than the other one here. So I'm actually going to put that down here. Well, I'll move this whole thing. We'll see this whole thing down here. So here's the scanner class. And again, what it's doing is saying scanner in, where we said scanner scan. But then it said new scanner. So it named the scanner something different here. So, and then here's our program for this. I'm going to just take these lines here and put them over. Let's put them above here so we can do that first. So we're going to declare a string variable called line. We're going to create a scanner called in this time, new scanner. And then we're going to say type something, and then we're going to use this in our scanner and go next line and save that in a variable, our string variable called line. And we're going to print that out. And then we're going to say type something else. And we're going to read that in again into the same variable and print that out. I'm going to comment out this stuff for now, so it doesn't confuse us. But I want it there so we can talk about it in a little bit. Okay, so that's commented out. Now I'm going to run this. It says type something. So I'm going to type something. And you said that, and type something else. Something else. And it types that here. So again, it just is taking whatever we type and echoing it back here. whatever we type is read into this in dot next line and read into this, and we're printing that out to a variable. Now let's talk a little bit about naming these scanners and how these work. So you'll see different examples and different people will name scanners different things. We in this class will tend to not use either of these names for the scanners. We will tend to use input. So rather than saying scanner in, we would say scanner input. Change it there. Now, if we change the name of the scanner, every time we use it to call next line, we have to change that. So we'd have to change that to be input. So just so you know, when you're looking at examples and kind of combining examples, watch what the scanner is called. It'll always be say scanner and then some name, and that's the name you have to use when doing the input. So again, here I called it input here. Now, same here, down here, we call this scanner, and I could call it input here. Now, if I already have it declared as input up here, I don't have to do it again down here. So I'm actually going to skip this. I don't need this anymore because I have it above. But now when I do the input, I want to use the name of the scanner, whatever it's called, like input. And again, common names are, I mean, what would you name an input scanner? You'd call it scanner or scan or input or in. So a lot of times it's one of those common names. We will tend in our class to use the scanner name input in a lot of our examples. Another thing you'll see here is that some examples will close the scanner here. We do not, I mean, that's can be okay, but we are not going to worry about closing the scanner here, because when your program quits, the scanner is automatically closed. So the scanner is automatically closed when your program ends. So we're just going to not worry about that in this class. So, but sometimes you'll see examples. So like, again, this example doesn't close the scanner in this textbook, but this example in CS Awesome did close the scanner. So there's some slightly different versions of it. Let's look at one more example here, because right now we've only read in strings here. What if we want to read in like an integer for this? So we're going to look at this example here also for this. So again, I think I'm just going to clear this all out here and start moving this example in here. So here's my line to read in a name, and that's what we've been talking about here. It says, what is your full name? We're going to declare a string variable called name and say, read it in from the input. Oh, but I forgot to declare the input. That's why it's saying this here. So I'm going to grab this line and put it over here too, above that. So I want to make sure I'm declaring my scanner above. And again, if I didn't have my input up here, it would complain about that. I have to make sure my import, this import is also up here. So I have my import, I'm declaring my scanner and giving it name input. And then here I'm using that input to have the next line. So, and again, maybe I want to print out this person's name. So maybe I'll do a system dot out dot print line. Your name is, and then print out their name. So now if I run this, it'll first, it goes line by line, goes here, what is your full name? And it sits there and waits. The input will sit there and wait until I type in something. So I'm going to type in my name and hit enter, and it says, then it goes on, once it sees that enter, it goes on to the next line, system.out print line, your name is, and then prints out that name. But again, what if I want to read in an integer? So what if I want to say, what's your favorite number? What favorite number? Now, how do I want to store that number? Do I want to store it as an integer or a decimal? I mean, a double stuff? I think most people, when you ask them for their favorite number, they're going to give you an integer. If I ask you, what's your favorite number may not be 7.8. There may not be a decimal. No, maybe you have a favorite number that's a decimal, and that's fine, but not me. So we're going to do this as integer. So I'm going to say int, and give it some name, favorite number. Oh, favorite number. And now I'm going to read that in. And so far we've doing input dot next line. Read that in. And then I'm going to print it out. I also like the number, and then we'll print out the number. Favorite number. Now I can try to run this, but there's already a line there, and it says one or more projects are compile errors. So it can't even compile this, can't even convert this into code. Here it has a problem. So running anyway doesn't help because I'll run the old version here. So I'm just going to hit cancel, and I've got to figure out what this error is. Incompatible types, strings cannot be converted to ints. So next line gives me a string, but I'm saving it in a variable call and it's an integer. So I have to fix that. Now I could save this as a string possibly, but let's say I wanted to do some magic trick or do some math with that number there. I want to, pick a, number. I'm going to multiply by 10, divide by 15, and then it'll be some thing. And we'll actually do some of that in our assignment this week, is do some math on this. So I need it as an integer because I need to be able to do some math on it here. So I need to keep it as an integer. I can't, because it would be okay if this were a string in this case, not a string. That would solve it. But again, if I want to try to do some math with that number, that wouldn't work. So I'm going to leave it as int. And now I can't use next line. Now, one thing I can do is I can say input dot and start typing next and look at some options here. There's next byte, next int, and next short. There's also next float, next long, next double, next Boolean, just next. So there's lots of options here. And of course, we know next line. I'm going to choose next int here to read that in because it's an integer. And that should make my computer happy. So name, oops, not there. Click down here and type in the name. What's my favorite number? And it's read in that number and printed it out. So again, when we're reading a number, we do next int, an integer. What do we do with doubles? So again, I'm going to grab this example from over here. Use next double. So how much does your favorite meal cost? And we're going to read that in to this favorite meal variable. So I'm going to run this, put your name. I'm going to have to click down here, and so I can type down there, favorite number. How much does your favorite meal cost? 1246. Hit enter. Now again, I entered this. It didn't display it. It just inputted it. This input just inputs it. It doesn't display it or anything. So if I want to actually do something with it, I have to add another statement. So that's why we have this statement here that prints this all out. So we're doing a system.out.print. Here. No, I was doing stuff differently here than in this example. This example says it asks what your name is, and it also asks what's your favorite color, and that's missing here. And it asks what your favorite integer was, and read that into a variable called favorite int. So again, when I'm taking code from one example, I don't have that whole example here. It can sometimes run into trouble, but sometimes I can learn from that. I can maybe modify it. So it says, it prints out my name, your favorite color, and integers are, and prints out their favorite color and integer, and your favorite meal cost, and prints that out. So I want to, I'm missing some things here. I'm missing the favorite color. So I'm going to actually grab that and put that in here. And it declares a favorite coloring. And then the favorite integer, I just named it. I called it favorite number, not favorite integer. So I'm going to use that in my print statement. Okay, so now I've got rid of all my errors. Here, I might see a warning. That's okay. But no errors. And I can run this. And it asks me, what is your name? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite number? How much is the favorite meal cost? And it prints it out here. Questions on all this? I think you're bored of letting me talk. So let's have you do some stuff for the second half of class. So we're going to go back into Unit 2, and we're going to go to the discussion area and talk about MadLibs here. So I don't know if you're familiar with MadLibs, but this calls it a game. I actually think it's more like a puzzle or a activity. There's a set of books that are here, and it's a word game for this. It's been around, and the idea is that you would have a phrase or a song or a poem or something like that, lyrics, and you'd put in stuff and you'd say, you want an explanation. I need an adverb and an adjective and noun. And so usually what you're doing is you don't see this. You ask the person that you're playing with, give me an adjective here, and then give me a noun. And sometimes rather than just adjective and noun, sometimes we make it more specific. You know, rather than saying noun, give me a body part, noun, noun, or give me an animal here, or something like that, or a colorful adjective or something like that. So you can do it more than just adverbs and nouns here. And again, they would tell you an explanation, an adverb, a noun, an adjective, and then you would stick them in here and get the results. And again, there's a whole area devoted to these. MadLibs, and there's lots of information about MadLibs and all these books you can buy related to MadLibs. So we're gonna have you create a simple one here. You have to ask for at least 5 things. Your computer program has to ask for at least 5 things, and then you want to print out the results here. Now, if you want to get creative, you can, if you aren't very creative, you can talk to AI and ask AI to do this. So, oops, I don't want to go to that. I want to go to this. Here. So again, I can ask this like any AI like ChatGPT or whatever, and I can ask it, help me make up a Mad Lib about something or things like that. I think you're creative enough to do this on your own. One problem you have is, so just pick, one idea is just to pick kind of the refrain from a song, and grab those lyrics and then take out certain words and have the user put in new words for those lyrics, or a poem you like, or a saying, or that like, or you can just make up a little story, anything like that. So I had ChatGPT create one, and it said, give me a college major, a verb, present tense, a Java programming concept, an adjective, and a number, and then has this. So if you said these things, then it creates, you would input these things, and then now you have to make a program. So over here in our program, we would want to do things like, rather than asking them for the name, we'd say, oh, enter a college major, and read that into a variable. And you'd want to say, enter a verb, present tense, and you'd read that into another variable. And then at the end, your printout would be your Mad Lib sort of idea. So why don't you work on that, see if you can create a Mad Lib. That's all we're doing. I know some of you may have done this already. I see in the discussion some. So, you don't have to redo it, of course, if you've done there, but create a program for MadLib and see. So why don't you get started on that? Okay, I'm just going to make a quick announcement and then I'll be right there. Okay, so quick thing now. What we want to do eventually is post this to the discussion. If you want to see, there are other people's examples out here. So again, you can click on some of these examples and see what they do. And you want to do basically the same thing here. Again, I've taken this example here and put it in. I have my scanner class, I have import up here, my scanner class, and then I ask them to enter some different things, store them in variables, and then I print out my results here. So I have my program. I'm going to post that to the discussion. So I'm going to copy that all here, go to my discussion, start a new thread. Tom's sample from class, paste that in here. And I'm going to take a sample output also and put it in here also. Sample output. And I'm going to post that here. So again, sometime this week, you've got to post this stuff. Let's see, why isn't this? And then also, eventually you want to try out some other people's ones. You're going to click on it, copy their code into a program and run it and do your own version of that. And we'll talk more about that later. But again, initially, you want to just get this working sometime before Sunday night and copy the code and post it into the discussion area. Questions on that? Okay.